Hello. Today I'll be taking you through the CC4Teams omnichannel client. We'll be looking at the agent user and how voice calls are routed through the system. Now, CC4Teams stands for Contact Center for Teams. It's an application available from the Microsoft Teams store. It is inside of your Teams client. So what that means is that you can access it anywhere you can access Teams. So whether that's your desktop device, your laptop, or even your mobile device. Now, from within the CC4Teams application, I can currently see there are 3 calls that are waiting in the queue. I can see the duration of each call, I can see the phone number, and if I hover over the call, I can see which queue they're waiting in. Now, these calls can be routed to automatically. You do just have to be in a Teams available present state. So if you do go into available, the call will route through to you automatically, or you can hover over the call and you can select to pick up that call from the list. Now, over on my right-hand side, you have your contacts list. So your contacts list is in sync with your Active Directory. We do sync it on the 20th minute of every hour. So if you do update your directory, that will sync over to CC4Teams. You can, however, filter this by creating an AD group. That way, we'll only display the contacts from that AD group. Now, from within my contacts list, you can see I have 2 sections. So I have a favorites, and down the bottom here, I have all of my contacts. Now, to add a contact into your favorites, you simply need to select the 3 dots next to the user. Click Add to Favorites. This will then add that contact into your favorites list. I can also see the user's Teams present state as well. If I hover over them, I can see their photos. I can also see stuff like their job title and their department. And if I click the phone symbol, I'll see their contact details. Now, an email address is a Teams call, whereas the other contact details may be external phone numbers. You also have the ability to chat with these users, so you can pop up a Teams chat window if you want to chat with the user before you transfer from a call, or if you just need to chat to them. Now, you can also add users into your list by simply selecting the Add Contact button. You simply just add a name, a phone number, or an email address. You can also create more fields as well. So by adding the names through here, the phone number, I can also add stuff like their email address as well. So that way, when I choose to contact this person, I'll see the different details. Now, with this particular contact, you can add them to different queues as well by selecting different tick options. So what this will then achieve is that will allow this particular contact to be seen across the different queues. So that means members of these queues will then be able to contact this individual, or if this particular person calls in using one of the contact details you've provided, you'll then see that contact waiting in your contacts list here as well. Now, these contacts can also be added to your favorites. You can also choose to edit these contacts at any time by selecting the 3 dot, or you can actually remove this contact from the list as well. Your contacts list is also searchable, so it does require a minimum of 3 characters. It will not only search the contact's name, it will also search their job titles and their departments as well, just so you can see those extra details there. Now, you don't only have to add them singly into your contacts list, you do have the ability to add it into your Active Directory. You can add them also into the CC4Teams Admin Center by doing a bulk upload using our Excel template that we can provide you. Now, to answer a call in CC4Teams, as I said before, you simply need to change yourself to available, or you can select to cherry pick the call. So when you do select to cherry pick the call, you will get a pop-up displaying what queue, if the name is known, and the phone number, and you simply need to answer the call using the Teams Toaster pop-up. Now, from within the CC4Teams client, you'll have your call controls visible over here on your right. You'll also see on my left, I have access to a dial pad in case I need to use the tone menu. You can select the down arrow if you'd like to bring up the customer's historical conversations, so customer journey. You'll be able to see the date, the time this individual is called. Now, you'll also see if the call has been handled. So if the call has been ticked, it means it's been handled. You'll see the agent that's handled the call. You'll see what queue that call came through. You'll also see if the call hasn't been handled. So you see here it's marked with an X. There's no agent name. It shows what queue, but essentially it means no one in the queue has handled this call. Whereas the call below here, so this particular call has been abandoned before it hasn't even reached the queue. Now, you also will have other stuff available. So over on the right-hand side, You'll have an interactions notes, so you'll be able to add notes. So these notes will also store in the system. So if you do transfer the call to another user or another queue, this interaction note will automatically pop up once that has been transferred. You can add as many notes as you want. Essentially, the list will just expand and you'll have a little drop down. Easy. When you do review the previous comments, it will show the agent's name. It will also say the date and the time the call was left as well. Now, up the top with your call controls, your first option here is being able to put the customer on hold. So by simply selecting the pause button, that will put the customer on hold. You can resume the call by hitting the resume button. You'll also have extra call controls to complete a transfer. So if you wanted to complete a cold or a warm transfer, so this is generally if you know the name of the person or the phone number, you simply need to type it in and hit the transfer button. You also have the option to do an IVR transfer. So what this means is that you can transfer the call to a queue or a flow. So queue and flow transfer are available for the cold transfer option. So this just means that I'm going to send the call through to a queue or even the flow without giving any announcements. So a queue transfer is transferring it to another CC4Teams queue, whereas a flow transfer uses the CC4Teams graphical IVR call flow. So that means you can actually customize the transfer that you're completing. Some examples would be if you wanted to put a privacy announcement in place before completing the transfer, that is where you'd use a flow transfer. So you can either select the drop down or you can type the name of the queue that you wish to transfer the call to. Now, transfers are not only available at the top, but if you look over onto your contacts list here, so with your contacts list, you can select the phone symbol. You can select if you wanted to complete a warm transfer or a cold transfer to this individual. So by selecting warm transfer, you can select the different options to complete the transfer, but warm transfer means that you can speak to the person first. So completing the warm transfer now, I can see that it's ringing the third party. So once the third party has answered the call, you can see the previous interaction notes that's automatically popped up for me. I can also have the ability to switch the call, so I can switch between the caller and the agent, so I can constantly switch between the two. If I need to ask further questions, I can also then choose to finalize the warm transfer, which will then disconnect me from the call and connect the two parties together. Or I can hit disconnect if the person says not to transfer the call to me. So what that will then do is that will bring the customer back to me. It will keep them on hold, so I can choose to resume the call and speak to the person, or I can choose to transfer that call through to somebody else. Now, say if I wanted to complete a queue transfer, so doing a warm transfer to the queue, that means that it's going to select an individual at random from the queue. So that will use the routing method that you have set up with the queue, so whether it's longest idle or the ring all function. So when you do select the queue, works just like transferring it to an individual, except it's transferring it to a queue. Once it finds the appropriate person, the person will then answer the call, and then you can finalize the warm transfer to that individual. Now, when you are done with the call, you simply just hit the hang up button. Once you complete the call, this will then put you into wrap-up mode. You can customize the timer. You can also customize different topics as well. So I can actually select different stuff for this particular call. Depending on what the call was about, that will then go into reporting for supervisors to view. Now, you can either wait for the timer to count down to 0, or you can simply end that yourself as well. Now, once ending your wrap up, that will put you into available and that will offer you the next call. So the next call will be directed to you almost immediately as well. Oh. Now, that's how to make a call, how to transfer a call, how to transfer a call through to a queue. Now, some of the other stuff that we'll quickly look at as well is some of the extra features that you do get with the system. So say if you needed to make an outbound call, you have two options. You can either select the new interactions button, you can select call, type the phone number in, or use the dial pad. You also have the ability to select your outbound number that you wish to call with. So this is not using your direct line to call this particular person. This is using the queue number. So that means if the customer does call back, they won't call directly through to you, but they will come through to the queue, so your IVR options. Now, looking at my list as well, you can also check your historical conversations. So by checking the different options up the top, you do have your historical conversations. They are searchable as well, so you can type a minimum of 3 characters, just like you do at your contacts list. You'll see different details like the name of the person and the phone number. You'll see what queue that call came through. You'll also see whether that call has been handled as well. So this handled button here is actually linked through your entire contact center. So if it is ticked, it may mean that you've answered it or someone else has. Whereas if it says handled X, that means no one in your contact center has answered that call. You'll also see stuff like the date, the time, you'll see the duration of the call, and you will have the option to call that particular person back by hitting the callback button. Now, some other stuff that's available with the system as well is so you have a present state inside of CC4Teams as well. So this present state essentially will sync with your team's present state. You can actually select present states from within CC4Teams. You have the ability to create customizable present states. Now, these are custom per queue, which means you can have different present states for every queue. You can also give your agents the ability to join themselves in and out of queues as well, simply by ticking and unticking. However, you can remove that right if you just want supervisors to be able to control whether an agent is joined in the queue to take calls or not.